hey, we can hear people. Yeah, I love that.
People. This is good. All right, everyone. So obviously, glad you guys are all here. So in lieu of a traditional client party, try to be creative. Also support local. If anyone has not been to Avvino, you absolutely need to go, and hopefully this is a good reason too. And if you have gone, better get your ass back there. So we're going to try and do this within an hour-ish. So Tim here is going to introduce everything to us, walk us through everything. And again, all of this is being recorded, but this is a really great chance to get all of your questions typed into the chat room. And then Krista, my wife, will read them out loud and keep the...
That's Krista.
There are a few of you that I should say keep the questions nice.
Oh,
Oh boy.
But we'll read them out loud. This is your chance. If you see something that maybe is different to you or that you'd like some explanations on, and again, knowing that this is getting recorded and you're going to be able to play this back when you make it yourself, definitely get a question out, and we'll make sure that you get it. The recipes, you don't have to worry about writing everything down when you guys pick up your produce boxes, or if you can't pick them up and you need us to drop them off, the recipes will be in there for you. So this is just, again, a great chance to scribble down maybe something different outside of the lines, if you will. So without further ado, Tim?
yes.
Okay.
All right, have a seat. Everybody else is going to eat. So later. But why don't you guys hang out for a second, and we're just going to kind of play this nice and loose. I'm going to have Derek and Krista kind of hang out and eat while I'm kind of cooking and explaining everything. And we're going to do 3 recipes today. So we're going to do like a flatbread, which is a recipe that we kind of do in in November, October time. So it's a sweet potato flatbread with pecorino cheese and sage. Then we're going to do a winter salad that has some bitter greens, some bib lettuce, some Granny Smith apples, burrata, and some spice pumpkin seeds over the top. And then we're going to do some braised short ribs, creamy polenta with a gremolata over the top. So we're going to kind of move at a good pace, but as I'm going, don't be too fixated on how much went in there, or how many tablespoons was that, how many grams of that was in that. You can always ask those questions, but everything in your box is going to be pre-weighed out for you. And then just to make sure there is a little extra, there's going to be recipes that you can go along with as well. And in case that's not enough, you can still rewind this and then kind of just cook along with me. So that's going to be it. Any questions so far? No? I thought I had a hostile crowd. What's going on here?
Let's get started.
First thing we're going to do, we're going to be making our flatbread. So real quick, we're going to start with our KitchenAid over here. I'm going to be using this. If you don't have a KitchenAid at home, you can knead this by hand. That's totally cool. You probably needed a forearm workout anyway. So if not, you can always use, there's other mixers like that. The most important thing is it has a dough hook on it. You don't want to use like the whisk or the paddle on it. The dough hook looks like this because it looks like Captain Hook. So there you go. So we're going to just take this off. There's many different models of this. This one at the home that I have is kind of swings up and down. The one at the restaurant's a little bit beefier. It doesn't do that, but they all kind of work the same. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our bowl ready. We're going to warm up some water behind me. I have 166 grams of water. I'm just kind of warming up. You want the water for when we introduce the yeast and the salt and the sugar to bloom. You kind of want it to be like warm bath water. Now, if the water is too cold, it's like, drinkable water, it's just going to take a lot longer for that yeast to activate. If it's too hot, like above 115 degrees or anything you would not like to be in a bath in, you're going to kill the yeast. So you kind of want nice warm water to activate it. If you make that mistake, we can always warm up more water. If it's just room temperature water and you're worried about warming it up, that will work fine. It's just going to take a little longer for it to bloom. Okay? So I just have this little pot over here. So what we're going to do, and I have this all pre-measured. If you guys are really interested, we can kind of go through it. But I have like 5 grams of yeast going into this. And then I have salt and sugar put into this as well. And what we're going to do is we're just going to let this kind of stir up for a little bit. Now, the most important thing that we want to do, if it doesn't do anything, and the reason that we just don't dump this into it, we want to make sure the yeast is activated. And what you're going to see is like things are going to start bubbling. You can see a little bubble starting right there. That means the yeast is alive and active. If it's sat there and looked at you flatly and looks like just kind of granules in like in water, something might have gone wrong, and there's probably something that we should not proceed with. So we're just going to let this hang out for a second. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is in our little bowl that we have here. All right. We're going to add our flour. I'm going to add 250 grams of flour to that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to let this kind of relax for a second, but we can also see that this is starting to bubble. Now, if you let this go for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, it'll really start to get foamy. You can see these little chunks kind of starting to float up to the top. That is a good sign. So what we're going to do first is we're going to just take this. We're going to add this right into our bowl. Okay. You guys are hungry, right?
Hell yeah.
They just got their first drink, so they're quite quiet. But they'll loosen up as we go. All right. So what we're going to do is going to secure that on there. Very important you secure this onto the KitchenAid. If you don't do that, it's going to be a whole other mess. We just got a dog. He would be doing cleanup. So, he's kind of like the Dyson of the house now. So we're just going to secure that on, drop this down, and let that go.
Could you try again?
Siri was wondering what I was doing too. Now this is gonna look really wet, but it's fine. This dough that we're making is quite wet. It's a different hydration level. If we're gonna really talk in like baker's terms, this is something that we would call a 75% hydration to flour to water. So 75% of this mass is made of water and to the 100% of the flour. The flour that we're using here is bread flour. Just has more protein. It also helps develop gluten a lot easier. So that's a lot more. If you have AP flour, that's great. You can always do that. We're going to be providing you with bread flour. If you would like to buy bread flour, that's cool. I would just stay away from like anything that's like, low gluten or anything like that. If you are gluten-free, I know there are some alternatives out there. Those work fine as well. The only thing I do notice with that is the texture is a little bit denser, but that's totally cool. That will work just as well as well. So there's that as well. We're just going to let this go for a few minutes, and it's going to start to create a ball. And what we're going to want this to do is kind of start to pull away from the metal bowl as this kind of starts to get cranking, all right? Most important thing that I always do is resist the urge to like, just don't do that because you're gonna break the KitchenAid. They're not cheap. So it's gonna take about 12 minutes. Just let that chill out. In the meantime, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little salad, all right? One last thing with our flatbread. What we're doing right now, and this is pretty much indicative to any kind of flatbread. Now, if you want to make this flatbread and you just want to buy, I don't know, just a normal flatbread and top it with the stuff that we're doing, that's totally cool too. But with most flatbreads, this part of the recipe is completely the same. What we're going to do after we develop the gluten in the bowl there, then we're going to start adding our aromatics, like the onions and the herbs and the sweet potatoes and things like that. So this first part is pretty ubiquitous to any kind of like flatbread that we make at the restaurant. It's all about what you want to add to it. So if you're like not a sweet potato person, you like, I don't know, figs will totally work. If you don't like Parmesan, you don't like pepperoni cheese, you can always add Parmesan cheese. You want to add brie, gorgonzola, anything like that. These things are just kind of suggestions, but they can always be mixed and matched as you like. So
what if you don't have a mixer with the attachment for the dough? What can you use?
You can always, I would do something called the well method, where I usually make my pasta. So I kind of make a hoop of the flour mixture, and I would add all the wet ingredients, and I would mix it together with the tines of my fork, and then I would just knead it by hand until it's smooth, that is. Like I said, it's going to be an excellent forearm workout. It's going to take you about 12 minutes, so maybe not Peloton that day. So that would be my suggestion. Any other questions before we start going? No?
Who's got a drink in their hands over there? I can't really tell.
They're hiding it.
I see you, Carrie.
Rhea does. Sam and Sarah do.
Okay, Hubert.
Peelers
The
do.
peelers got him over there.
Perfect.
Lions do.
That doesn't shock me.
No.
Okay, there we go.
The Lions having wine does not surprise me.
Yeah, there you go. So while that's mixing in the background, I'm just gonna turn this down probably because the noise is not the best. We're gonna make a little simple salad for these guys. We're just gonna mise it out, and then I'm gonna make the rest of the flatbread, and then we're gonna start eating because I know these guys are hungry.
Starving.
Yes. So we're gonna make a little simple salad with some bib lettuce, some radicchio, some spiced pumpkin seeds, some marinated burrata, some Granny Smith apples. Really simple, something you can always put together, but it's very wintry as well. First thing we're gonna do is we're just going to take our radicchio. Now radicchio is very bitter. So we're only gonna use probably a quarter of the salad is gonna be the radicchio, just because bitter is great, but you don't want it all bitter. So, and also to balance that out, we're gonna be using some fresh Granny Smith apples, and then some bib lettuce, which is or butter lettuce, if you want to call it that as well, that works too. So radicchio, find this at Wegmans. Anything that you find here, you can find at Wegmans. It's got a little root in it. I always find it kind of strange to kind of like, to eat. So I kind of just take it out. So then you're gonna have something like this. This grills well if you wanted to like make this for a side for some steaks. Grilling it, olive oil, salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic, and some like lemon juice over the top of it.
Does the grilling take a little bit of the bitterness out?
Totally does.
All right.
And also the lemon, the acidity of that's also going to neutralize that as well. So we're just gonna kind of cut this into some pieces for you guys.
We appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Who else has got a question out there?
Nobody? That's it? And then we also have some butter lettuce. Now, this is also an aggressive amount of lettuce. You don't have to use all this. So,
I'm filming, Mike.
Oh,
Oh,
where's
I
Jimmy?
saw.
He's filming.
Love me some fuzz.
so we're just gonna break this up as well. And we're gonna kind of get all the gardening, as I like to say, out of the way while this flatbread's going, and then we can just return to this. So we just have our greens kind of clean. And that's more than enough for 2 people, not unless you're like a lettuce head, and then you can have way more, but that's cool. Let's return ourselves over to the flatbread real quick. Right now we have
We got to get more Toby on camera.
Toby will be, that's what they're gonna say at the end of this, more Toby. At this point we have some sauteed onions, which we're gonna provide as well. So we're gonna add that into the bowl as well. Some Parmesan cheese, okay. We have the zest of half an orange that we're gonna put that into, okay. We got some pecorino cheese, because why not more cheese? The reason that looks a little different is we kind of peel that on a vegetable peeler. Just at the restaurant, we kind of like, we don't want all the cheese to kind of look grated the same way, just for the visual aesthetic for the customer. And also I'm confused very easily and I don't know what I'm grabbing. So we're also gonna add our sweet potatoes and also some sage.
What's the purpose to adding that to the dough?
So what we want to do first, why we don't add all these things to the dough in the beginning, it's going to make the gluten that we're developing with the water, the bread flour, and the yeast and the salt and sugar. It's going to make it very hard for the gluten to develop once we start adding fat and vegetable matter to it. So we want this to be turning for about 12 minutes or until it starts pulling away from the ball before we add all those ingredients. If we don't develop that gluten, we're just basically going to have something that's not going to be able to hold the breath of the yeast. And it's going to just kind of become it's going to be a flatbread, but a very flatbread with actually really no leavening, like a wasa cracker. And that's not something that we're really going to want. So we're going to want something that's got just a little bit more air to it. So that's why we take the time in the beginning here to develop that gluten in the dough. So that's a very good question.
Does bread flour just have a much higher gluten content?
It has more gluten and more protein. So it develops and keeps its breath a lot better. So
because a lot of Asian noodles are made with bread flour. for that reason.
Made with bread flour or high gluten rice flour, which because rice doesn't really have gluten, but they add glutinous rice to it to be able to do that. If you're also looking for bread flour, is kind of on the scale of like AP flour, bread flour, or like pastry flour. It's a little bit finer than AP flour. Pastry flour is very talc-like, and there's a definite difference in that. That pastry flour would work as well. I just like to use just the normal bread flour. It just works for me better. It just absorbs a little bit easier. So that's also something to do. So we're just gonna wait until this whole thing comes together, and then we're just gonna mix it up. In the meantime, I'm gonna kind of move my little salad station here. The other side of the room.
So while we're in a little lull right here, what are some of the signature dishes that if someone has not been to Avvino that they can find at the restaurant and should expect to try when they get there?
I mean, there's a contrary to popular belief, it is not an Italian restaurant. So there's a lot of things going around from many areas of the world. And just because me and Gene love to travel so much. So, I mean, there's things that are inspired from French to Spanish
Morocco?
to North African to, Chinese to, South America. So that's kind of like how we approach, or at least I approach the food there. I like to use as much local ingredients as possible, but try to express that as much as I can.
And
locally.
you guys change your menu all the time.
Often. Now with the pandemic, obviously it's been a little bit different. We try to keep some stuff that is, and I'm just kneading this, kind of bringing everything together at the end. As you can see, this is a very loose and wet dough, and that's nothing wrong with that.
So when they get the flour that's measured out,
Mhm.
will they have a little extra to do
We
this?
can always do that. If they just have some like AP, because I actually didn't use bread flour for
Okay.
this.
And
I just call this bench flour. I just have some like AP, like, King Arthur's.
AP is all purpose.
Yeah.
All purpose. I'm sorry. Yes. Am I talking too technical right now? I'm so sorry. And just bringing this together. At this point, we have something like this. What we're going to do is put this back in the bowl.
We've also heard some people chiming in with their favorites
Yeah,
about the bone marrow
Yulin.
appetizer.
Okay.
Yulin loves your bone marrow app.
Thank you.
And Jason and Yulin recently got married. They've got amazing photos. Congrats to them, obviously.
I appreciate that. That's very kind. So what we're going to do with this bread at this point, we're just going to cover, I usually just cover it with a towel and just kind of keep it in the warm part of your, warm part of your, kitchen for about an hour. If you have like you got like a fancy dancy oven, it's got a proofing app on it or setting, put it in there. It'll be done in about 20 minutes, but you'll do that. And then you're going to have something like that. So at this point, this has been proofed just kind of in the warm part of my oven for about an hour. At this point, we're going to form that. This flatbread makes 2 flatbreads. So you guys are going to be kind of hungry. I hope you're hungry, or you have like a marathon the next day because you're going to need to carb up. Okay. So I'm just going to grab my bench scraper. Sorry, that's for Toby later. He's fine.
Fan favorites at Avvino are the pear salad, the pork chop, the rabbit, and the spinach fritters.
Oh, thank you.
The
The
ricotta
Michelle?
and gnocchi are
The
also.
peelers said
The
do you need
peelers,
those
yep,
now.
Yep.
Those are not on the menu tonight.
So at this point, we're just going to start forming this real easy. Like I said, I just have a little flour. And the only reason it's not about adding flour to this, it's just so you don't have a sticky mass on your kitchen table. So I'm just going to cut this really rustically in half. If you want to, if you are serious about cooking, having like a scale is cool. We could just divide this by weighing it, and then
They're like
that's fine
$12,
too.
by the way. They are
These?
super fancy.
Yeah, I mean that's not too fancy, but if you're serious about cooking, that's cool too. But we're just really going to kind of form this into a mass like this, so we can kind of cut it. What I have here is a cookie sheet with just some parchment on it. I like using parchment. If you have like a silk pad at home, that will totally work too. But we're just going to form this and just going to put that right on the cookie sheet. Okay. We're going to have something kind of looking like that. At this point, what I like to do is I actually take some fresh rosemary, excuse me. Some fresh herbs. This is sage. There's already sage in it. And I just kind of like put it over the top like this.
Beautiful.
Real easy. Nothing stressful. And we're going to give you a bunch of sage. It's going to be all measured out. And we're going to give you a little extra to put over the top. And what we're going to do is we're just going to let this rest for a few minutes. And what we're going to see is this is going to start to rise and kind of rise over the sage. If you threw this right in the oven right now, the sage, especially if you have like a convection oven, we're going to go over your different oven settings in a second. If you have like the convection oven has like a fan on it, your sage is going to blow away. And that's fine, but it just you won't be eating that later. It's just,
burn.
yeah, it's a little bit, it'll smell wonderful in your house. So that's the nice thing. So at this point, we're just going to kind of do that.
There's a few people that got fancy ovens in their kitchen. I know.
That's
that.
right. So it depends on your oven. Not every, and I want to go over that too. My oven is different than your oven. Every oven is not created equally. Some people have ovens that are like the furnace of hell. Some of them are like an easy bake oven. You just have to have a good relationship with your oven at that point. So
There's a quick question. Is this
Sure.
sage decorative or is that adding flavor?
it is adding flavor and texture because it's going to crisp up in the oven and kind of give you kind of like almost like a fried herb effect to it. But at this point, I just have some olive oil and we're just going to kind of drizzle that over the top. Just like that. And then I always have some, and we're going to provide this as well. I have some nice finishing salt. And I always use kosher salt, but I have some finishing salt. This is molten salt that I'm going to put over the top of it. You could just use a little bit of kosher salt if you like. I would really stick away from the iodized salt, please. It just is disgusting. But it also is like kind of like harsh on the palate. If that's all you have, I implore you to find some kosher salt or some sea salt that you enjoy. Try a bunch of different them out there. There's tons on the market. Wegmans has them, Tops has them, Trader Joe's has them. All of them have them. Give that a try, and maybe try and stick away from the iodized salt if you can. Same way with like our peppers that we have here, black pepper, white pepper that we have here. What I always do is we always use whole peppercorns or whole spices at the restaurant. And what I do is I just go to like Marshall's and find like a really cheap like spice grinder or coffee grinder for like $20 and grind to how you need it for like the week or however. Getting pre-ground stuff, you never know like when that was ground. Usually that it's kind of loses its game after about 6 months of being ground. So like if you have like, garam masala from like your cooking class in like, senior year of AP International, you can probably throw it away. It doesn't taste like anything anymore. So just think about that. It's just, grinding as you go, tasting as you go. We're going to do that as well. But I said enough about that. That was enough preaching. We're going to put this in the oven real quick.
Now, Tim, to
Yes.
that point, I think many people might be like my mother, who has about 84 spices in the cabinet circa 1984.
My mom has tarragon dried from 1975. I was born in 1978. So just imagine. What we're going to do, it's going in using fresh herbs. I employ, going to Wegmans and getting some chives. It's a $1.49 or whatever it is. It's totally worth it rather than buying dry, chives. Dried chives don't taste like anything. Some dried herbs like fare a little bit better, like oregano. Thyme does okay, but like dried parsley, I'm not sure what we're doing with that. But I mean, get a bunch of Italian flat leaf parsley, not the curled stuff, and chop it up. You're gonna notice it's gonna be so much fresher, and it's gonna be a lot more vibrant than what you normally have. Now, I have this set at 325. It's a convection oven. If you don't have convection, I would maybe suggest something like 375. This should take about 18 to 21 minutes, dependent on your oven. As said before, not all ovens are created equal in this world. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to let that bake. I'm just going to set this up real quick, and then through the magic of me prepping beforehand, we're going to eat the flatbread right now because these guys are starving. Magically, we went 20 minutes into the future. We have something that's going to look kind of like this. Okay.
Beautiful.
Any
We have
questions?
Wow.
A question about herbs.
Yes.
What are your favorite herbs to use on proteins, like chicken versus steak versus fish? What do you like to use?
All herbs are great. I do tend to like steak and heavier proteins, I use more thyme and rosemary. For fish, I still use thyme as well, but I will use like chives, shallots, tarragon, dill, softer herbs. Typically, chicken, still rosemary and thyme, sage works well. But I mean, it's all dependent on what's up to you. I worked in a place down in southern Italy, and I worked with this wonderful gentleman, but he also had very like stringent guidelines of what herbs went with things. And I thought that was strange. He was like, basil and fish never go together. I was like, never go together? He's like, they don't go together. I'm like, all right, crazy pants. All right. So, you know, so that would be like sacrilege if I did that. You know, I think even a couple of weeks ago, I was telling that story. Then I had to make a dish with basil and seafood just to kind of stick it to Vincenzo for a hot second. But yes, yeah, those are the herbs I kind of like. But you know, it's all if you don't dig on sage, don't use sage. If you don't like certain things or you gravitate towards, some people like love cilantro, people like hate cilantro. But cilantro is something like parsley, like it's something I wouldn't like put in like braise with because it just gets lost in its ubiquitous at the end of it. So it's not really any point to it. So it's great when it's fresh and it's cut over the top, but like cooking it in there kind of loses a bunch of its game. So
Now the flatbread question, do you top it with anything?
I am going to top it with just a little bit of olive oil over the top, and that is going to be it because we put enough junk in there already. So we're going to take
But you
this
can
off.
do a dipping sauce and aioli or.
We are, and I'm going to provide that as well. I actually am going to be doing a burgundy truffle mayonnaise or aioli, which we make at the restaurant that has a little bit of white balsamic in the background. So I'm going to cut these up. We're going to cut these for you.
You each get your own flatbread.
I mean, you can split the first one, you can take the other one home. It's all on you. So, all right. So this is for you.
All right.
Thank you.
And that
Thank
one's
you.
for you. And I think we got little ramekins around here. We sure do.
He's gonna.
It's almost like
You just go ahead.
They're delicious.
thank you.
Wow, that's really good.
So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna give. Actually, you know, I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah, I was saying.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Let's be honest. It's fancy pizza,
I wanna
everybody.
show the sauce, the dipping
Ooh.
sauce.
Yes. So we get burgundy truffles. We shave them. And we add that to the aioli with a little bit of white balsamic vinegar as well. How's that? So far, so good.
So it looks
Nobody's sleeping
amazing.
yet. Who's drunk so far?
I
Nobody.
see
Okay.
Pino over
They're
there
all
celebrating.
drunk.
They're all drunk. Okay.
I'm so hungry.
I can really do anything now. That's fantastic. All right. So
Is Eric and Mooney got some good IPAs going on over there? What do you got? Nope.
No thanks.
Oh, there they are.
so next, while these enjoying because they needed to eat that, we're gonna make a little bit of a vinaigrette for our next salad here. Okay.
This is so
Tobes,
good.
thank you. Tobes, how's that going down there? All right. And he's like, AP flour, delicious.
It's like so soft.
Thank you. Well, that's the hydration level. So, you know, having a wetter dough, it's kind of weird and kind of doesn't look quite correct, but it actually it results in a wonderful.
I feel like when you have flatbread
Texture.
at a restaurant, like
It's like
so
crunchy.
crunchy.
Yeah.
And
And
it's kind of like
and it's
pizza.
dry.
So this is a shallot. We're gonna make a little vinaigrette here. It looks like a small onion. It's a little bit less harsh. I'm just cutting this in half. We're gonna make a little bit of an apple cider vinaigrette. So if anybody has ever cut a shallot or an onion before, we're just gonna go over that real quick. I cut this in half and peeled it. I like keeping the root on. Just because it makes it not go everywhere. I also not like cutting my fingers, also very important. So what we're gonna do first is I'm just gonna make some horizontal slices here. This is fun.
We are jealous of all this, guys. We're ordering Chinese food right now. That's where we're at.
From where?
A number. Well, see, that's the thing. It's a number of different places. That's what's great about DoorDash and Grubhub. If you like the noodles at one place and the chicken at one place, the lo mein, the Mongolian beef at another, you can order from 3 different places. It's no big deal.
Absolutely.
So we made some horizontal slits. I did some vertical slits this way, and then we're just gonna kind of go back through it and have a nice fine dice. Now, we're gonna have something that kind of looks like that at the end of the day. We don't want to sit there and kind of run through this. Bruising shallots kind of make it bitter, I find, and I would make fun of anybody in my kitchen at the restaurant for a very long time. people at home, you do what you want to do. I just would gravitate not toward just having like big chunks of shallots in your vinaigrette, not unless you want to not talk to somebody for a while. So we're just going to add our shallots in. I'm going to add like
And shallots are part of the garlic family.
part of the onion family, actually.
Onion family.
Yes,
Oh.
part of the onion family. Leeks, onions, shallots, ramps as well. A little bit of garlic in here. We're also going to take some thyme. This is fresh thyme. It doesn't come in a McCormick's bottle. So this is what this looks like. You can just take this. You can take this right off the twig there. If it's really woody, it's easy. If this is really soft, I just chop it with a knife. You know, professional kitchens in French cooking, anything beyond like having like the little florets off of it would be incorrect, and you would be beat with a wooden spoon. We're going to be a little bit more casual about that. So we're just going to pick a little bit of time.
In cooking school, do you really get beat with a wooden spoon?
They don't allow that anymore. There's OSHA now, and there's lots
but
of
when
things.
you went to cooking school, it did.
When I went to CIA, and I didn't go for that long. I was there for like an immerse thing. I actually didn't start cooking. And Janine, Janine will tell you, or maybe she won't, but I'll tell you. I went to school for finance and marketing, and I have my master's degree in that. And then I was so proud of myself. I went to Italy and totally burned the whole thing away. And then, but I found something I really dug. Like I enjoyed it. I always cooked. I cooked catering while I was in grad school, and I really enjoyed that. And thank God, I had another career where I did that, and it was fine, and the money was fantastic. But I didn't find it as a fulfilling of much of a life that I enjoyed. So what we have here is 1 cup of apple cider that I reduced by half with 2 tablespoons of honey.
Ooh.
Are we gonna provide them with that?
Yes,
All right.
I provide like a father. It's fantastic around here.
Look at you.
So everything that they need to make all of this, like the garlic,
It's all
cloves,
gonna
everything's
be in there, which is the most important thing, because like
Yeah, they might need a little salt, pepper, if they
If
want
you have
extra
the
olive
basics-
oil, that kind of stuff.
and
but-
that also olive oil too. Let's talk about that for a second. Having olive oil, I would definitely suggest like extra virgin olive oil if we were finishing things. If we're going to be searing stuff, which we're going to be searing in a little bit, things with a small, like a high smoke point is very important. So just because you don't want to smoke out your house, that's an important thing. But things like this, you want to use a nice oil. This I'm using a nice neutral oil for it, just because we don't want, if we use like a really, really flavored oil, what we would find that we would have here is something that is competing with the apple cider, and we want to be able to taste that. So that's kind of an important thing as well. We're just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this as we go and mix it. I always have like spoons around at the restaurant, at our house here. Janine finds them
They're
everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah, that's okay.
Everywhere. They're in the laundry.
That's all right.
Everywhere.
We can talk about our personal life after this. I don't understand why we're doing it. So
But
we
you
have
are
that.
supposed to taste your food along the way.
Absolutely. And that's the most important thing. If there's only a few takeaways from this, taste as you go, not seasoning. And then all of a sudden at the end, like throwing all your salt and sugar or whatever in there, your pepper in there, you tend to actually use a lot more salt. People are very, cognizant of their salt intake, high blood pressure, and many other dietary issues. Tasting as you're going, and seasoning as you're going, you're going to end up using a whole lot less. So we have our vinaigrette here. We have our lettuce. What we're also going to do is we got some Granny Smith apples here, also provided by Mr. Wegman. I like keeping the skin on. I just like that. That's kind of my thing. But what we are going to do is we are going to core this. And what I do is I just kind of cut it into quarters. Now I'm going to take out the core like that. And like that. How's the bread? Oh God, you guys are hungry. You guys ate it all.
Oh my
So-
God.
Yeah, no, I couldn't
And
stop
well,
eating.
we starved them for 2 days before they let them into the house because
The thing I like though too is that like that could be a dinner.
That
on a
was
quick
the
night,
lightest
Like
For
flatbread.
sure.
thank you.
I
Especially if
think
you
most
put protein
flatbreads
in it.
taste like cardboard.
Well, a lot of them, a lot of people, and it's out of convenience too. A lot of people just, they get like a flatbread or a naan or something from Wegmans, and then they just kind of like put the junk on top of it. So it's already been cooked, and then you're going to cook the stuff onto it, which makes it cooked twice into kind of a cracker-esque kind of form. So we have some Granny Smith apples. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get some burrata. Now you can find this at Wegmans as well. Don't freak out. I got the finest Bella Giosio ones as well. You can find these at Wegmans. These are little 2-ounce burrata balls. They have 4-ounce ones. They have ones with like truffle in them. Whichever ones you like. If you don't like burrata, you like mozzarella. If you don't like this and you also like goat cheese or blue cheese, whatever you like, these are just kind of suggestions. But this is what we're going to do today. Is we're going to find these little balls. So burrata, maybe you guys, I hope you guys kind of know what this is, but burrata is a type of cheese. It's related to mozzarella cheese. They pull it and then they take the stracciatella and then they put inside the mozzarella. So it's like unctuous and oozy. They think it's ricotta. It's actually the first form of making mozzarella, which they fill it in. So not to dork out on you too much, but they make the cheese because I had to make it in Italy as well. They make the cheese. They have the cream and the milk, and it's in a big bath, and they put the rennet in there, and the curds come up. The whey goes to the bottom. And the first thing they do before it starts to set, they kind of pull away a bunch of these curds that are very young, and that's what they're filling that with. And then they let the rennet set, and they can cube it up, and then they can pull it out. Then they can start stretching the mozzarella from there. And then when they do that, they kind of flatten it out and add the stuff that they had from before and tie it off. It's really complicated. The most important thing, it's delicious, and you should try some. So from here, 2 burrata balls. I'm just going to add a little bit because it's very rich. I'm adding just a touch of white balsamic vinegar to this and a little bit of salt and pepper. I would implore you to definitely season your burrata when you get it. It's been in a water bath to keep it. But it makes it very bland. So I would season with a little salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil as well. Can't hurt. Okay. At this point, we're just going to assemble our salads because they ate that at such a vicious
They're
rate.
so hungry.
They must be. I'm not being a good host, so I have to pick my game up here. So at this point, we have our greens that we cut right before we did the flatbread. We're going to add our apples.
Beautiful.
And then
Nothing you've done is really that intimidating.
No, but what I like to do is I'm going to add some fresh herbs to this. Back to the fresh herb game. I'm adding just some torn basil because my buddy in Italy made fun of that before. And I kind of
Thai basil?
this is just sweet Italian basil.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Thai basil. Thai basil looks a lot different. It's going to, first of all, have kind of like a purple stem in comparison. But I love adding fresh herbs into this. You could add anything if you like tarragon, you like dill, a soft herb. You don't want to like get down on some rosemary because who wants to get on a pine tree? It's just a little too hard. But like a nice soft herb, we want to add some parsley to this too. This is just something that we can chop up. And that's just as adding some freshness to this salad. Not that it really probably needs it, but we can always add that as well. Perfect. At this point, we're going to season our salad as well. Just a little bit as we go, okay? Now I'm gonna get my paw in there, so I'm gonna really glove up here and get some dishes for these guys.
So in a salad,
Yep.
What is the most important thing that you try to keep in mind? Most American salads are so overdressed.
They're overdressed, and this goes with pasta making too. I think a lot of people, the dressing is a condiment, and even when we were in Italy, you really, the dressing or the sauce is a condimento. It's a condiment. You wouldn't eat more ketchup than you would eat hamburger. So, having it dressed and just coating things, I've definitely seen some people eat some pasta that looks like it's just sitting in some Campbell's soup, and it's just like got some noodles in it. I think that's bizarre, but that's what they enjoy. Same way with salads. I've just seen so much blue cheese on top of stuff that it's like, I know you appreciate blue cheese, but that's just supposed to kind of lightly coat that. And what it does is really drowning out the vegetables that we have. So what we're going to do at this point is we're just going to add a little bit of this vinaigrette, and we're going to toss it. I find having a bunch of like rubber gloves or latex gloves or whatever you have that were around the house is super important. It just makes it a lot easier to dress salads as well. And during this climate, it's not a terrible idea to have that as well. Now, at this point, we're going to taste. Good. We're going to let that go. And we're going to add that to our little bowl here.
But because the salad's not overdressed, it actually has some posture to it.
It has
right?
some. It doesn't look like soup within 5 minutes, which is also an important thing. We do a lot of events at weddings, and a lot of people, we try to do salads that are lightly dressed or heartier salads that have like apples or something a little bit more fibrous in it, because people like to overdress their salad sometimes. If they let it sit for about 5 minutes, what they find is they come back to some sort of murky thing that used to be a salad, and now it just looks like some sort of green soup kind of concoction. What we're going to do is we got our burrata over the top here that we are just going to place in the middle here that's been dressed. And then we're going to finish this. I'm going to add some spiced pumpkin seeds to the top of this. So what we did is basically made a pumpkin seed granola. We make this and we use this at the restaurant over our romesco dish that we have at the restaurant. And this is a granola that we make out of pumpkin seeds, made with a little bit of a Moroccan spice. It's called minta. It's got a little bit of spice, but a little bit of sweetness to it as well, because it's made with a little bit of brown sugar. So what we have here at the end, we have some acidity, some bitterness from our radicchio, some richness also from the burrata cheese, texture that from our pumpkin seeds that we have here, a little bit of heat that's been coated over the top of the pumpkin seeds. And then we have our fresh bib lettuce over the top. So we're going to give that a try, guys. Let's try that.
Anybody on the phone has never tried burrata, this is going to change your life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're going to be, yes. I noticed that
life changing.
most people that are like, no, they don't know what that is. And they're like, well, it's like mozzarella. It's like mozzarella on speed. So it's something that they're going to enjoy.
So as we cut open the burrata, you'll see that it's a really soft, creamy interior, which again is what Tim was touching on. But it is, I think a lot of people think it's basically the sister to fresh mozzarella, but I gotta know if that's really that horrible a description.
It's derived from completely.
It's very soft, very creamy, very milky, really delicate, but does need to be dressed.
Correct, because it's been sitting basically in the wave that's been cooked in, or maybe just some water, because it will dry out and get kind of funky. But if you don't, if you don't season it, it is a little on the bland side of life. But salt, pepper, and good extra virgin olive oil fixes most problems in life, I find. So
It's so light.
Oh,
I feel like it lets the flavors actually come out.
Right,
You don't
and I
just
love
taste like the dressing.
in the fresh basil, you need an herbaceous note to it. And it's something that's very attainable, but it's also winter. It's not like, I think most people think mozzarella cheese and basil, then they want to put a tomato on it. Tomatoes don't grow around here this time of year, but these things do. So it's something, apples and radicchio, that's something you definitely see in winter time things. So any questions about that so far? Other than jealousy?
Nothing worse than overdressed salad. Yum. Dying right now looking at that, Derek. Can't wait to try this. Looks delicious.
Perfect.
Yeah, so to Tim's point, they call it a condimento, which the Italians look at it like sauces and dressings like makeup. So
That's an excellent analogy.
right, so it's a little bit of makeup goes a long way. If it's too much, it steals from the natural beauty of something. So that's how they look at it.
That is a nice analogy. I'm gonna steal
I
that.
learned that.
I'm gonna steal that one later and then claim it for my own. But no, that is an excellent analogy. That's exactly the way to think about it. As much people like to drown things. It seems that the pasta thing is the one that always got me just out of my mind when I was there, because not to bash my own cut, but a lot of the Americans especially would come there, and I would see them, and they were just like want this first of all, they want spaghetti and meatballs, and in the area of that I worked, there was no spaghetti and meatballs, but even if there were, you would have spaghetti, and then the second course after that, or would be your meatballs. You would never have spaghetti and meatballs on the same dish. They couldn't wrap their mind around that, but that's an Italian Americanism, and that's something that we've grown up in this country with. But that's a whole other story as well. Just to show you that I wasn't just fooling around. The one that we put in like 15 minutes ago, it actually did work. It wasn't just all for it just wasn't all for show, everybody. You actually do cook these things.
We'll
So,
get that too.
that's right. Just in case, you never know. So next, in our last dish, we're gonna do some braised short ribs. Now, got to talk about the oven real quick. Same thing. Some ovens take a long time. Some ovens don't keep their temp the way that we want. Short ribs usually take, in my oven, 3.5 hours. Now, this is an excellent thing. And all these things, other than dressing them in salad, the flatbread, if you're doing this for like a dinner party, can be done the day beforehand and just warmed up as I did for them when I took it out of the bottom oven. Same thing with the short ribs. If you want to make the short ribs the day before and then portion them or however you want to do it and just warm them up the day of your party, that's an excellent idea. It all depends if you like your company. And if you don't like your company, then you can stay in the kitchen the whole time and cook the whole time if you're trying to avoid them. We all have family members like that. It's okay. And then if you want to, you could do it the day before if you actually enjoy their company. So it's going to be really up to you and have to gauge in your people. So next thing, 3.5 hours in mind, it might take longer. The most important thing when the short ribs are done, they should be like spoon tender. If you're sitting there with a knife and doing this, we got a problem. It's got to keep in the oven for a while until you can literally take a fork and you can literally pull it apart. So that on the other thing, make sure that it never runs out of liquid. Also very important. Dry burned short ribs are terrible. Actually, I made some earlier this week. I had a chef that had my convection oven. It was at 325 at the restaurant. It was all of a sudden at 500. And all I did is smell burned meat. And it came out an hour and a half later and it was charcoal. And I was not happy. We had to fire him. It's okay. But just watch that as well. You want to make sure there's enough liquid so it's not drying out. I do find if you have a convection oven that has a fan, it's going to dehydrate a lot quicker. If you just have like a normal baking oven, it's going to be fine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have our pan on rocket hot. Now, it's a very good idea to have a hood. If you don't have a hood, I'm not going to turn this on full blast because you won't hear me. But if you don't have a hood or you have that thing that just kind of shoots right back at you, I don't even know what that is called. You know, they have
circulating.
Oh yeah, those things are terrible. Those things are going to smoke your house out. Open up a window. That's right. And have a fire extinguisher.
You can all afford a window. We bought it together.
Yeah, that's right. Remember when Derek got you the house with the window? It's time to use the window. Okay.
On a salad note, the radicchio is not really tart or bitter. It's complementary, right?
Yeah.
It's not. It's approachable now.
Yes.
See, I feel like I wouldn't buy it at the store because of I wouldn't know how to put it in this.
Yes. And I always like I keep it around. I like, everybody likes, hey, I like sugary sweet things too. Everybody likes sugary things. Some people like salty things. It's about when we're creating a dish, we need balance. So we have things that are bitter, sweet, acidic. Even the Granny Smith's apples have some acid to it. We have things that have body and richness like the cheese. We have some texture from the nuts. Your palate wants and desires these things, even if you don't think they do. Maybe you just can't, you don't understand why you like it, but you like it for these reasons. And also heat. You have heat from the pumpkin seeds I was out. All these things working together to balance, much like wine, which Janine could talk to you about at length about.
Next class.
Next class. So we have our short ribs. I'm going to be giving you 2 of these. I'm going to pre-cut them for you. I have 4 here because we're gluttonous. But no, you're going to have 2 of these. And these are going to cook down to about, this is all meat. They're going to be cleaned. When these cook down, they're going to be about 6.5, 7 ounces of meat. Now, cooked. These right now are about 12 ounces a piece. That just goes to show you short ribs do cook down a lot. Probably about 40% of their net weight. So
Now,
We
Tim,
got someone saying we're in for the wine class. Bring on the wine.
All
Thank
right.
you.
hell yeah!
yeah, we do that.
Classes
Yep,
as well.
yep. Our Som, Janine is a Som, and our Som
What's
serve.
a
Some. Oh, really?
He's using technical terms.
Sorry, they already said that. They already punched that one out. I'm like, damn. I was like, guys, quick with the typing.
I'm
Sommelier.
embarrassed that Krista had to ask. By the way.
So sommelier. There's 3 different categories. There's 3 different ratings of it. Janine is a second. There's a third, which is master. There's only how many people?
There's actually 4 levels.
Okay,
but
whatever.
you-
How many people are 4 or number 4?
Master sommeliers in the United States, like 90
Yeah.
people.
It's a big
Janine's
life
no
movement.
woman. Let's just put it that way.
I think Janine was the first woman in Rochester with the or was it Holly? Was it Holly? I can't remember who was.
Just Janine for
It was
the
Janine.
show. It was Janine.
I don't know, but I'm told I was the first female sommelier in Rochester.
That's amazing.
I could be
2000
wrong.
2009.
We're gonna say the first because I don't want to get hurt later. Guys, you know what I'm talking about.
It's pretty
All
good.
right, so we're gonna have our pan. We're gonna make this hot. I preheat this pan. What you're looking for is we want to do something that's a very neutral oil. If you have canola oil, we have peanut oil. We do not want to use extra virgin olive oil. If we do that,
You're
back-
close.
back to smoking.
Your battery's low. Do you want to plug that other battery in?
Uh-oh.
It's okay. Give us a warning. We're okay.
Oh, and are we still going?
We're good.
Oh, fantastic. So, seasoned quite aggressively with salt and pepper. I don't know if you saw that. We went back over here. Seasoning this, I seasoned my red meat pretty well.
We are a little slow here.
So, what we want to do, should I slow down or like stop for a second?
We'll give it a 1 second.
Okay.
We gotta plug it in
Elevator music.
external battery.
I wish I could say this is the first time this has ever happened to us doing one of these things.
We should be good, right? It must be recording, or it must be
It
charging,
looks
right?
pretty good now. Let's give it a
Okay.
shot.
All
There you go.
right.
So we got our pan, we got our short ribs, and we're gonna let that move around real quick. What we want to do is we want to get that seared nice on one side. What's up?
You heated the pan well in advance, by the way.
I had it on very low behind me because I am efficient. But yes, I cranked it up when I knew I was going to be going in there. Going into like a cold pan, you're going to have like a poaching kind of thing going on. You don't really want to do that. What we're looking for is this to sit there. And I know everybody wants to be like a chef and start moving things around. Just let the meat sit there. What we're doing is we're actually creating a nice deep crust on it, something called the Maillard effect, which is basically the rapid heating of proteins. It's not sugars. Meat doesn't have sugar in it. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but which creates like a wonderful brown crust. The thing that you need to know about that, it just makes it delicious. And that's what we need to do. We don't want to like poach this into kind of a gray kind of thing, kind of a gray poached piece of meat. It will still cook fine, but it won't taste as good. We're just trying to develop a little bit of flavor here by.
How do you keep your stove clean when searing meat?
I don't. There's a dog here. His tongue is no. How do I keep it clean? Clorox afterwards. I will be here scrubbing later on. I just try to keep things close to it so I'm not spilling. As much. I mean, keeping it as clean, being as efficient as possible, always helps me out. So what's going on?
Obviously, the whole point of this class is we're celebrating a great year.
Okay.
Celebrating great clients. One of our best friends, Michelle Peeler, happens to have a birthday today. So we're
we
celebrating
wanted to celebrate her.
Michelle's birthday today. We've got a few friends in the crowd cracking a couple bottles of God knows what. And
Happy
Chinese
birthday,
food all at
Michelle.
once. So we love you. Happy birthday. And
You're unmuted.
what?
It's her birthday.
Happy
Happy
birthday. Happy birthday.
Woo!
Yeah, we
Happy
love
birthday, Michelle.
Toby says hi.
We got
Toby
her
said,
glass.
Toby's going to right, Tobes? All right, that's a good boy. Let's snag this.
You gotta wear your
It's a
thing.
good husband.
Yeah, wear your thing.
Oh, I gotta wear my sash. Oh boy.
Birthday sash and everything on camera.
Wow.
I mean, who knew 37 would be so big?
Here's the man. Sit.
Oh my god.
So,
cute.
in the meantime,
Look,
we have let this kind of sit. What we're looking for is something that kind of looks like that. Nice, dark.
keep waving.
but you want to see the smoke, right? Don't
You do.
panic. Don't panic. when
No,
see
you
the
shouldn't.
smoke.
You shouldn't freak out. Now, if this starts to ignite, then you got a problem. Make sure there's a very good, if there's a fire extinguisher around. That's always good. Having a good hood.
You want me to put it on?
Derek, I'm sure she sold you a house with a wonderful hood that sucks up stuff that doesn't blow in your face, and it's gonna be great. So while this is searing, we're just gonna cook. We're gonna cut a little veg here. So we're just gonna have a plain white onion. This is not like a Vidalia onion. This is just like a Spanish onion, and we're really not gonna worry about.
this, baby.
We're just gonna cut this in half, and this is gonna be cooking for like 2.5 hours. So we're not worried about like the shallot that before we were worried about nice fine dice. We're not doing that. So we're just gonna cut this in half like that. Big chunks. It's not gonna matter. We're gonna weed this out anyway. So something that kind of looks like that. It can be as rough as you want. It doesn't really. You want to put half the onion in there, you can, but it's all gonna break down over time in the oven. So Big
we got
chunks
more
like
from
that,
steak
real
and
easy.
stuff from Give Chance. Plus I have
Then
to
we also have some celery.
You get your Esau like your hats? Everyone had their hats?
Dog
Got
Toby
all
is.
their hats on.
Toby is a
No,
mix of a Labrador.
No?
Sorry. Wow, I even insulted him. So sorry, bud. He is a golden retriever and black poodle. So he is a golden doodle. He gets very offended when you call him a labradoodle. He gets a little punchy. So he didn't like that as much. So at
He's
this
a
point,
good boy. I can't do it like Janine did it. It didn't work out.
You don't retreat.
at this point, we're just gonna take our tongs. We're gonna move our beef. Now I'm
just gonna record that part.
I'm gonna put this in what we call at the restaurant a third pan. Now, I know you guys probably don't have anything like that. If you have a small Dutch oven, if you have something that kind of looks like, I just looked at it, this, like a La Crusade, something that goes in the oven that's like enamel, then also is like cast iron in the middle, something that can be braised or a braising dish, that's fine too. Just for continuity of what's coming out of the bottom oven, and just for convenience for me, I'm putting in this something that's called a third pan from the restaurant, but something like this or a Dutch oven will totally work for what we're gonna do. Next, we're gonna add our vegetables that we just cut up into the pan. It's still quite warm. All right, at this point, we are gonna add some whole pieces of garlic. Some thyme and some rosemary. And at this point, we have a bunch of pieces of the meat that's stuck to the bottom of that. That's called the fawn. We're gonna actually lift that off the top of the pan. Once I find the appropriate thing, I'm just gonna add
Wait for the
about
other one.
tomato paste to
Give them
this,
dinner.
and we're just gonna kind of move this around. We're not adding any more salt or pepper to this. And the reason that we're just adding this tomato paste right now, we're something we call rusting. It just adds kind of, it's not about making this stuff taste like tomatoes. It's just adding some depth of flavor to it. That's why we're only adding like a teaspoon to this. It's not like making tomato sauce or anything like that. And we're gonna provide that as well. At this point, we're gonna add some red wine.
What's the preferred kind of red wine to put in?
The most important kind of red wine to put in is something that you would drink. If it's box wine or something that you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole drinking, don't cook with it. There's lots of inexpensive wines there that are totally palatable, that are totally fine. This is a cab. This is a kind of a darker, if you like, it's more tannic. I like that for short ribs. If you're more of a Pinot guy, that's really cool too. It's just gonna make it a little bit lighter of a braise.
We all like a little Pinot, by the way.
There you go, that's right. So, I mean, it's really up to you. The most important thing, I don't go to like a grocery store and get like, oh, they have like
Cooking wine.
cooking wine. Yuck. Don't do that. Go to a liquor store, get some, there's fine $6, $7 bottles of wine, which are completely fine to drink, that you can enjoy as well, that you can cook with. You don't use all the wine, you can still cook, you can still drink it too. So there's nothing wrong with that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this really hot again. We're gonna reduce this, okay? At this point, what we want to do, which is very important, which is the only time I'm actually going to shorten my demo, is you want to reduce this wine until there's literally like a tablespoon of it left. What you're doing is you're just trying to reduce it and get out all the natural flavors of the wine and cook up not just the alcohol, but all the water out of it. So reducing that down really is going to enhance the flavor of that wine that you have in your braise. So we're going to cook this all the way down. While we're doing this, we're going to go over to the polenta. Now, polenta, traditional Italian, not just cornmeal. We're using pre-cooked polenta. You can find this at Wegmans. It's gluten-free. We're using one box here. We're going to provide the milk and the cream that goes into this. So what we're gonna do, this is 1 box of polenta. This is 2 quarts of milk and half a cup of cream. That's a very large batch because these guys love polenta, especially for 2 people. So we'll probably give you a half portion of this, but what we're just doing is heating up this milk and cream mixture before we add the polenta. We kind of want to get that up to a boil before we add that, and then we're gonna whisk the polenta in. While this is steeping, we're gonna add our salt and white pepper. The only reason I like white pepper is you put black pepper and it looks like you got pieces of coal in there. So I'm just gonna mix that through. We're also gonna.
Pepper have the same flavors.
It does not. It's a little bit what I consider grassier, and I love it for like poultry and also seafood as well. We're gonna add a teaspoon and a half. You can let that go. I don't think it'll light. A teaspoon and a half of garlic into that. We're gonna whisk that through. We're gonna come over here. Toby, help. Gotta clean that. We're gonna add a little bit of chives and some thyme and some rosemary. Hey, you came. Good boy.
He's the greatest.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
We just got him. He's only been here a couple weeks.
I tried to do a Janine trick with him that went south.
It's okay.
And I didn't know I was being filmed.
It's okay.
We can do that at the end. We'll see if we'll do it.
So we're just gonna take some rosemary. We're gonna chop that up real nice. We're gonna add that. And the reason that we're adding this to the milk and cream mixture right now while it's steeping, it's going to infuse the oils from that rosemary into that cream mixture. Then we're gonna take our time. Same thing as before.
And this is where you go rogue because the box of polenta says use water.
Yeah, well, it says creamy polenta. So I want creamy. Now, so if you have a dairy issue, go with the milk, and go with the water. You're gonna find not creamy polenta. Stock would be fine. Chicken stock, anything you want to use. Any other things other than dairy is totally cool. But we're kind of making a Americanized, rich, creamy version of this one. The mashed potatoes of polenta, if you may. So we're gonna add some rosemary and then also this thyme. We're just gonna chop up.
It smells so good.
At this point, we're just gonna take some chives as well.
What's the best way to like hold a knife?
That's an excellent. I like my right hand because I'm right-handed, so that works for me. This is a chef's knife, so I typically, the most important thing holding a knife, I think you should just be comfortable holding it. Most important thing is you just don't want to take out your left hand. So I always have it kind of curled, but I also do this a lot. So until I cut myself, and that's also one thing I would like to mention on this little demonstration. If I cut myself or I'm on fire, I would like somebody to actually mention that so I can extinguish myself as quickly as possible. So we're just going to add our herbs into that. At this point, we want to taste this mixture. Why? Because the salinity of this is what this is going to end up at the end.
Salinity meaning
salt.
Thank you.
And pepper. So we want this. This is like, oh man, this feels kind of flat. Doesn't have any salt or pepper in it. You want to add it now. It's going to be a lot more difficult to do it once we add the polenta. And this definitely does need salt.
So to most people, that would probably feel like a lot of salt.
This is true. But at the same time, it's going to be a lot less than if you thought it was bland right now, and then you added it all at the end. And you would end up adding way more salt.
And you're forgetting that you're making it in bulk, right? You're making a ton of it.
This is a lot. This is actually probably 4 times of what we need. So I'm going to cut this recipe in half for when you guys see it. But the actual actions and motions of this are going to be the exact same thing. I looked at it. I was like, that's enough for like 8 people. This is 2 people. I was like, well, that train left the station. This is how we're doing this today. So we're just going to let that steep. At this point, we have now let this reduce.
What are we looking for in terms of taste when you taste something?
If it tastes like it doesn't have salt or pepper to it, if it tastes flat, like there's not any acidity to
like
it.
Just straight milk. Basically.
Yeah, or it doesn't taste good. We got a problem there.
Or if it's too salty.
Yeah, if it's too salty, then that's why we're seasoning as we go. That's the most important thing. Seasoning a little as we go is really going to deter the fact that we're going to be too salinic or have too much salt at the end of it, because that's the worst thing. Because once it's salty, it's really hard to take it out. We can always add salt. Taking out salt's a real issue. Okay.
And right now, the salt is helping other flavors, but
that's
if you
right.
Dump salt at the end, it masks everything.
And it just tastes of salt. So salt really helps the receptors in your taste buds transfer that to your brain. So if you add it all at the end and it just tastes like salt, It's not really helping you taste that like rosemary flavor, that thyme flavor, that garlic flavor, any of the flavors that we have here. So we're gonna let that steep. We're letting this come up, and what we're looking for.
What did you just add to it? Eden?
This?
Yeah.
Oh, chicken stock,
Okay.
excuse me. That will be provided as well.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take this mixture that we have here, which is the wine, the onions, carrots, celery, rosemary, thyme, garlic, a little bit of bay in there, the reduced wine, and then the stock. We're gonna wait for this to come up to a bit of a boil. And then we're just gonna put this over the top of our short ribs. We're gonna turn off the stove because that's a fire hazard. At this point, we're gonna put the top on top of this, okay? If we have a top, this is a Dutch oven. I would actually suggest you putting some plastic wrap. I know people get freaked out when I tell them to do that. Put like plastic wrap over your Dutch oven before you put the lid on. It just helps keep all the moisture inside this. If you have something like I showed you before, like a La Crusade kind of like open face thing that something can be braised in, we're still gonna need to wrap this in aluminum foil, but I'm just gonna wrap this in a little bit of plastic wrap.
How often do chefs tend to cut themselves?
As little as humanly possible. I
I
don't
feel
like.
like you burn yourself more.
I
than
feel
you
like I
cut
do.
yourself.
Well, I'll tell you, burns I can get away with. I burn myself very bad. Like I burned myself, like last week. I do it all the time. Burns I can find I can work through the pain. Cuts, once it gets to a certain point, you're going to the hospital, and I really don't like doing that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap this up nice and tight, or put your lid on your Dutch oven or braising pan, however you have it. 325, 3.5 hours, or until it's fork tender. Let's get this in the oven and we'll take out the other one. So at this point, we're gonna open that up.
So is that just the vegetables or did I miss something?
Vegetables with the wine reduced, and then some
That's
chicken
all the
stock.
vegetables, the wine, the stock, and then we're gonna take out 3.5 hours later, something that looks like this.
Insert music here. Ta-da!
Who knows, maybe I messed it up. No, not me. So at this point, we obviously have some braised beef. You can see that the vegetables are still in there, but they have given everything that they could to this braising liquid. At this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that meat out of there, and then we're gonna reduce the braising liquid to something that's gonna be extra delicious for you guys. So I'm just gonna get a pan and my tongs. And we're looking for something, now, when this comes out of the oven, we're looking for something like that. See how I can just take the tongs and start.
Looks like pulled pork to most people.
Exactly. Well, you don't want to completely break down to like where it's a ragu, but you want to be able to take, you're going to be able to put your fork in it and just, it should pull apart. It should not give you any difficulty. It should not need a knife by any means or stretch of the imagination.
One of the questions was bone in or bone out?
Bone in is actually going to give you a lot more gelatin and actually going to help your braising a lot better. It's going to taste better in the end. It's going to take longer.
Yeah.
It just is, just because it's just more mass and more weight.
You know, that sinew around the bone.
Exactly. Well, you're going to really get all that gelatin right out of the bone as well, which is delicious. So at this point, we're going to take the pan that we braised this in, and I'm going to get that little piece of onion because that's just annoying me out of here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this braising liquid that we had before, and we're just going to strain out all the vegetable matter. And then we're going to make our sauce. And we're going to let that crank up. Next, let's talk about polenta. This is kind of getting to a place where we're going to have to address it. So we're looking for this to kind of get, it's steamy, it's delicious, it tastes good. Now, don't worry about your meat. It's not going to get cold because we're going to reintroduce it like an old girlfriend to that sauce in a little bit. Don't be offended.
I'm used to it.
So it's going to stay warm. We're going to put it. It's rolling hot. It's been cooking for 3.5 hours. It's going to be reintroduced to even hotter sauce. So it's going to be great. At this point, we're going to crank our heat on our polenta. And maybe give them a little shot of what we got going on over there. And that's what we're looking for. We want all the natural gelatin that is coming out of that braised beef. It's kind of infused this. It's going to give you that tackiness in that richness of that braising liquid that you want without having to add fat or gluten. Very important.
I think a natural inclination for a lot of people when they see this is to stir, 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 stir.
No,
stir,
just let it
stir.
go, man. Yeah. It's, I mean, same way with like when you're browning the beef, people are like, they want to do one of those. Don't worry about it. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna add our polenta. Slowly whisk it in. Now when cooking instant polenta and adding it to a hot liquid, it will thicken up quite quickly. And then it's going to enter this stage called the thick bloppy stage. Now the thick bloppy stage, it likes to shoot particles everywhere sometimes. These particles are very, very hot and you will get a 3-degree burn. So there's a certain point where you'll notice that I'll probably just kind of walk away like this for a second because I like not burns on my face and hands. But what we're gonna do is just keep on stirring this. I'm gonna turn that down.
It looks like pure liquid right now, but
It does.
will thicken rather quickly.
Oh yeah. It's just, this has basically been cornmeal that has been hydrated and then re-dehydrated. If we actually use normal cornmeal for this to cook polenta correctly like we did in Italy, it literally takes 6 to 8 hours. If you just got cornmeal and cooked it in liquid and you sat there and they would make it in these like copper pots and you literally with a big wooden spoon, you'd sit there and you'd walk by it every once in a couple minutes and you'd stir it. And like, God forbid you were the prep guy that did not put the polenta on early in the morning and it was like 3 hours to service and they knew that somebody had to go run and get the instant polenta, then the chef would go crazy on you. Those aren't good times. So you know, it's all right. I'll cry about that a little bit later. So we're just gonna let that go for a second. That's gonna heat up. At this point, we're gonna take a look at this. Now, we really haven't added any more salt or pepper to this other than the stuff that was on the beef. That's very important because we don't want this too salty. We can add this a little bit towards the end. If we added a bunch of salt while we were like making like, you know, and pepper into the vegetables in the beginning, it might become too salty. What we just want to do is make sure the meat is seasoned, that this has some salt so it's not completely flat and we can taste things. I'm gonna let this come down just a hair. And then I'm gonna add a little veal demi-glace, which we're gonna actually provide for you as well. I'm just gonna add like a tablespoon to this. Veal demi is based, or demi-glace at all, is basically a reduced protein stock. This one's made of veal or beef bones. There's chicken ones, there's turkey ones, there's fish ones at that. Basically a reduced stock until almost all the water is cooked out of it and it's almost pure gelatin. So we're just gonna let that reduce. I'm gonna give this a quick stir because this is now becoming getting thick. And I can also feel that the bloppy stage is upon us. It is, and I'm going to ask me at a certain point if there's a big blop that just hits like right here and there's no visuals anymore. Just kind of big yellow, you know, chunk on there. You're going to know what's kind of happened. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit and like literally a tablespoon of this. Like I said, we're going to provide that as well. I just like it because it just adds a little bit of just a little bit of more roundness and depth of flavor to this. This little teaspoon, so I'm gonna add 4 of those. All right.
Oh, we've
Floppy
reached
stage,
it.
floppy stage. I just got hit in the head.
Oh, did you really? Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll scab over. That'll be fine. At this point, we're just gonna let that completely hydrate. We're gonna taste it, and then I'm gonna add just a touch of Parmesan cheese to it. This is the bloppy stage, what we talk about, everybody. It's like burping at you. 3rd-degree burn burps, which you don't want.
But you do want to eat it after.
You do. And this will set. Now, this is unlike water or stock with the polenta, is going to be a lot richer. At this point, you can tack back your polenta to the rocket hot high heat that we had before. I have this kind of an immediate heat just to let it hydrate and also make sure that I don't burn myself. I'm going to add a little bit of pecorino cheese to this. I'm going to whisk that through. At this point, I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to reintroduce our short ribs. Or a braising liquid. And it's gonna be time for these guys to eat. So, I like that. Uh-oh, who's clicking? In full confessional, we really don't use this kitchen very often because
You're at the restaurant.
I'm at the restaurant, and one of the things I don't do at home is cook that much because, like a teacher, I don't ask I would like if Janine was a teacher, I wouldn't ask her to come home and teach me something. So I mean, like, it doesn't happen too often. We do that a lot for the classes. At the same time, I'm still kind of figuring out this stove. I sometimes think it's off and it's like on low and it's like clicking at me, and I'm like, all right, I think I have to look at something real quick. The audio goes out. So let's get our plates. And the last thing we're gonna do is make sure.
So is this more of a winter seasonal dish? or is it-
Absolutely, this is comfort food in its finest right here. I mean, nothing like creamy polenta braised short ribs. That doesn't speak, July to me. That's a cold day. It's time to snuggle up next to the fire. And what we're gonna do, we're just gonna try this just to make sure I didn't mess up. I find it acceptable. Okay. We're just gonna put our polenta down. And if you can tell, whenever you're making polenta, I typically make a 6-to-1 ratio. So 1 part polenta to 6 parts liquid, just to kind of get that consistency. Oh boy, I hope you guys are hungry. I don't know what you guys are.
I'm salivating like
I'm
crazy.
hungry. I haven't had anything yet.
Nope, this is for our guest, Janine. We get leftovers. You quiet, you.
I wouldn't say that. Janine's the best.
To hold the stupid camera.
You're doing so good. So we're gonna have something like that at the end of it. I'm gonna give Derek the big one because he deserves it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna eat all that.
Holy
I'll eat her leftovers.
But the best thing about this dish as well, it reheats very well. There's one takeaway. It's not like I got a rare steak, I'm gonna bring it home, I'm gonna try to put it in the microwave. This stuff microwaves excellent. So at this point, we're gonna take our braising liquid, put that over the top. Now, one last thing that we're gonna do, just because this is a very, as you can tell everybody, rich seasonal dish. What would I do? It probably needs to be brightened up with a little bit of something. So we're gonna add a little gremolata over the top of it, which is, I have just some pine nuts, a little bit of horseradish that's fresh. This is a fresh horseradish. I grinded it or grated it on a microplate earlier. It tastes way better than that like prepared stuff you put in your Bloody Mary, but that's just me. A little bit of lemon zest. We're gonna put that over the top. This is bringing texture with the pine nuts, a little acidity, a little bit of heat with the lemon zest, a little bit of heat with the horseradish, and then we're gonna take a little bit of parsley because it needs to be brightened up. Flat leaf, not curly. None of that curly stuff. Not unless it's 1977. I mean, that's cool. We're just gonna add a little bit of parsley over the top too. Just kind of freshen that up just like that. And that's gonna be it, guys.
All right. Wow.
Oh my God.
3-course dinner.
Yep.
Boom.
As quick as I can do it, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
So
Get over here.
So here's the deal, guys.
Wow.
If you have any questions, please feel free to ask now, or you can email us, or you can bug Derek. All those things work for me. And that's what you're looking for.
Are there any questions like before we kind of close up here? What an amazing presentation. Can't wait
Thank
to
you.
this. What an amazing job you did.
I know. No, thank you. That's very kind. It was a pleasure.
Can't wait to try.
How was it, guys?
Oh, good.
I'm paying them very well to say these things. This is like,
Oh, it's free.
It's free. This is the best. No, thank you so much. Hopefully everything was pretty straightforward as well. And like I said, I don't think any of that is wickedly unattainable. If there's any questions, once again, you guys are more than
Does
welcome.
Tim come with the package too?
Is that from my mother or from Mary?
Hey.
You know.
Oh, okay. Anything, there's a price to everything. I guess.
Taking the guesswork out of making my husband a birthday dinner later this week. Felt like I was watching HTV meets Iron Chef. Thank you. Better than the cooking channel.
Oh, thank you. That's
Aw.
very sweet of you.
Well, thank you, guys. Derek, Krista, Tim, everyone, thank you so much. What an amazing little event this is, and we can't wait for Thursday to pick it up. How incredible. Thank you so much for this.
All the recipes will be included in the boxes. Everything will be weighed out for you. And once again, if there's any questions, please feel free to reach
Where's
out to us and then
Come wave to me.
rewatch this. I'm talking over somebody. I'm so sorry.
Janine, they want you to wave to them.
Here, you hold it.
I'll hold. Okay.
Say hello too. There she is.
There she is.
I get Toby over here.
Yeah, where's Tobes?
He's coming.
Come here, bud.
Take a bow. Well done.
Who's such a good. Want to come over here? No? Scraps on the ground are more interesting? Come on, good boy.
I'll never be satisfied with Food Network again.
That's very sweet.
Mom, there's a camera rolling. I can't do that.
I can't do my tricks.
But thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Derek. And thanks, Krista. Thank you for being here. Once again, if there's any other questions, please feel free.
We'll leave it open for a couple of minutes, but
Yeah.
Laura's going to be in touch with everybody this week to set up times to pick up your boxes from Avvino. If there's any problem with that, just let Laura or Derek know.
They'll be all ready first thing Thursday morning. So whenever times that you guys come up to do it early in the morning or later in the evening, they'll be all set and ready to go. Just trying to think anything else I'm missing. We always end these things and at the end of it I go, I should have said something.
No, and then
What's up,
how
Tobe?
will they get the recording? Will you email them?
Yeah. Nope. I'll email it.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Recording will be emailed. You can reach out to the restaurant if there's any other specific questions. Boxes will be ready and
Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules to do this for all of us.
oh, it's fun.
No, it's no trouble. No, we
Any
like
last questions about anything you guys saw or we saw today?
anything up to like what kind of knife was it?
Let's talk about the restaurant for a second. What do we have on special coming this weekend? Since I know some people are in desperate need of a date night.
Oh, I got a very good. There's a perfect baked dish. There's a big. I was going to say a swear word. A very large ossobuco, like that is, if I may say so, it is beautiful for somebody to share. It's a large dish. So that's on special with like a wild mushroom risotto with some foie and also black truffles and some braised orange braised Belgian endive. But almost in the vein of what you see here, we have a fried gremolata that you're having a fresh one right here, but we have a fried one going over the top of that ossobuco. So that would be, if you are dying to eat something like this at the restaurant, that is the closest representation that we would have this week and this week only at the restaurant. If cooking's just not for you, and I understand. I get it.
Yeah, some just prefer to buy.
I
and
do
eat.
it. I do it too. There's nothing wrong with that at takeout. There's nothing wrong.
Especially Chinese takeout.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever you can get, man. I get it. It's like you don't want to do the dishes. I get it. Totally.
All right, guys, that is it. Do we have any last call here for questions?
Don't think so.
More Toby?
More Toby. That's the takeaway. More
No
Toby.
last questions.